what we're going to do a little bit, but I mean, shit, you've listened to us. We don't really have a plan. We kind of wander around and we get where we get,
Oh yeah.
Yeah, totally. And now, hopefully it doesn't explode in my face. Hopefully that sounded good over there.
The real deal, the real sound. Is that Epidemic?
That is. It's
That's
Touchons.
Touchons. I know that can. Yeah. How is that?
That's pretty good.
Good.
We've already had it a couple times, I think. Because
I
think you got me a 4-pack.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh
it's a solid
crap!
beer.
I just that made me think. I've got one in the refrigerator that you all sent me, so I'll be right back.
Yeah,
grab it.
Nice.
Keep talking.
Oh, we'll stay out late to gastrobate and hang out with our friends. We'll share a few good microbrews, the good times never end. From seaside to the mountains, we'll travel many lands. Eateth of their pub cuisine and hear their local bands. We'll drink it from a bottle in a can or what's on tap. We'll rage brew as we do with fairness and a map. Spirits are up, we'll fill our cup, the wind is in our sails. We'll drunkenly mix metaphors and travel hoppy trails.
Welcome back to Hoppy Trails, a show where once we go to video, we real quick bring on somebody better looking than us to make sure we don't scare you all away.
Absolutely. I'm Nick.
And I'm Travis, and today we once again have a special guest. That's right. Just so you don't get tired of hearing our voices, we bring on people who are interesting and prettier than us. And special guest, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell everybody who you are.
Thanks, Nick and Travis. Thank you both. I'm Billy Joseph Jr. I appreciate that intro. Makes me feel very special. So thank you. And so, so happy to be here with you guys. Of course, I have came in through some trailmate reports on earlier episodes. So my country voice has been heard on Happy Trails before.
That's right. Yeah, this is no mystery. Everybody's heard this voice before, and now here we are for something a little bit longer format. We're happy to have you, Billy. You've been one of our fans for a very long time. You're very present on the Discord server. You are our very first patron, which, as we've told you, absolutely warmed our hearts. We wouldn't have wanted anybody else to be first, so we appreciate you. We love you, and we're glad to have you on today.
Love you guys as well. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah.
Well, and my wife refers to being very present on Discord as you never get off Discord.
And you should never get off Discord. And anybody who's listening who's not on the Discord, you need to get onto it. That's where all the cool kids are.
Absolutely.
Well, as we often do, we start off talking a little bit about food. Nick, what have you made recently that is delicious?
Actually, for once, I have, because, well, we kind of recorded recently. So
yes, we did.
I haven't made anything worth mentioning. However, we are now almost a week into my brisket brining.
Oh,
for
yes.
pastrami. So for 4th of July, we'll have smoked pastrami.
Yes.
I'm excited for this. It's been a long time coming.
Yeah.
I'm sure I've talked about it a few times in past episodes, but it's something I'm looking forward to. So
yeah. Nick, you sent me the brine recipe. I took a look at it and I was looking through it and I thought, man, there's not a comment I have for this. It looks amazing. I can't wait for you to cook that thing and report back to us. Billy, how are you on pastrami? What's your thoughts on the cured and smoked brisket?
I love it. So, as long as someone else prepares it, I'm good.
That's what I'm here for.
That's right. That is why you're here. Let's see how well it ships cross country.
Yeah.
I think I can make that happen.
We will get some dry ice, man. We'll make it work.
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah. Well, now, Billy, you come to us from the southern states, right? And so out there, sometimes food's done just a little bit differently. We see you posting up some pictures of some amazing food all the time. What do you have going on in the culinary sphere?
Oh, wow. That's a culinary sphere. That's a big word.
Yes, it
Actually, it's
is.
two big words. And
Yeah, put
well,
them right next to each other.
I'll just talk about what I ate today. How about that?
Yeah, let's do it.
So today, which I enjoy a lot, I had some collard greens and cornbread and some pulled chicken, and
Yeah.
also what else did I have? Oh, sweet potatoes, mashed sweet potatoes in there. So those
Excellent.
are some very southern foods for sure.
Yeah.
And I have them every time that I have the opportunity to. So this morning I had the opportunity to go up to Asheville, or I had to go up to Asheville actually, North Carolina. I'm in Spartanburg, South Carolina, and so I dropped my daughter off for Outward Bound trip. She'll be
Yeah.
gone for the next couple of weeks in the woods, hiking and climbing. And so while I was there, just went ahead and stopped by 12 Bones Brewing and Smokehouse, and they had those delicious collards on the menu, so I couldn't pass those up. But
You said 12 Bones Brewing and Smokehouse?
Yeah, that's what I
yes.
was going to ask.
Man, you just
That's-
talked about a couple of my favorite things all under one roof.
It was nice and delicious as well. I had honestly, I had never heard of it. We've talked about this before, how we just like to discover new places, and you guys do that all the time. And so I literally just, as I left the airport, I just typed in breweries near me, and 12 Bones popped up. And
Brilliant.
what a nice discovery it was. It was wonderful.
Yeah.
Excellent. Good old Google Maps.
That's right. That's right.
Whatever maps.
Yeah, that's what I talk about. It's very rare that when I'm going to a place, I'll plan out the breweries ahead of time. Very rare. Sometimes, but for the most part, it's maybe I'll plan out one or two, and the rest of it is just get there, type brewery in and see what pops up and what's the closest to you and check it out. I've never yet had a situation where I got somewhere, couldn't find a brewery, and thought, man, I should have done more research first. Just you go someplace, type it in, you're going to find something good. Or even if it's, not the greatest, it'll be an adventure anyway,
Yep. Absolutely.
Totally.
Yeah.
That's what we're here for.
Well, and now, Billy, you won't have, well, no, I guess I'm trying to figure out where we are. We just recorded something a couple of days ago. That's not out yet. Okay. No, the thing I'm going to mention is out already. Oh my God. Pre-recording episodes has got my brain scrambled. Okay. The last episode we released, we talked about a casserole, and I talked about that kind of poor kid casserole, mix the veggies in with the cream of potato soup and what have you. And so what I actually did today is I reached out to my old buddy Bob, and I sent him that little clip that I put up on Instagram about it. I was like, hey man, do you remember this? And he goes, do I? And sends me a picture of that casserole that he just made today.
Awesome.
Yeah, man, when you get a classic like that, it just keeps coming back around.
That's great.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
So let's talk about where you are, Billy. And I don't mean where you are geographically. I mean, you jumped on here. We took a look at this room that you're in, and you've got some explaining to do. Where are you and what's going on?
Well, I work as a museum curator, which if you're on Discord, you've heard me bitch about it enough to realize that. And so,
yes.
So I've worked for the last couple of years building a lot of exhibits in a new wing here in this museum, and one of those is a history of technology exhibit. So I'm literally sitting. This is a radio station. It's if you had a 360 view, it's actually a radio station.
Oh, nice.
Mock-up, and so that's why the mic is here that I'm pretending is functional. And so but it's just talks about the history of technology. Has a lot of artifacts in here. Anyway, I just really, I would have done this from home, but here it's after 10 p.m. And my wife said, if you're going to be loud, you need to go to the museum. So that's why I'm here. And what
And this
better?
museum,
I mean, there's a lot of places. So what better room to be in, right, for this?
for
So.
sure.
No,
that's awesome.
absolutely.
And what's the name of this museum?
Wait, she's giving me a call right now, actually, on my cellular phone.
Oh my gosh, the Zach Morris phone.
Yes. For everybody that's listening audio only, man, when you get a chance, I'm not sure if this is going to be patron only. If it is, go become a patron, or maybe it'll be on YouTube. But you've got to see this. It really is an amazing setup here.
Well, thank you. So, yeah, it worked out great just to be in this space.
Very cool.
Absolutely.
And what's the name of the museum?
The Cherokee County Museum, and it's in Cherokee County, South Carolina. So there's a Cherokee County, North Carolina. There's a Cherokee County, Georgia, all within about an hour of each other. And there's a Cherokee County, South Carolina. So.
Yeah. All right. Well, that might make it a little bit confusing. You got to specify when you're giving directions.
That's right.
Now we've seen you throw up some pictures of some other exhibits and like that. What's kind of the general vibe of the museum? Is there any kind of theme that it generally goes with? Is it kind of everything's fair game and it changes around?
It started primarily as a history museum, so that's still the common thread that pulls everything together. Even this space that deals with technology highlights the local radio stations, the regional radio stations, while it's also talking about the development of technology in general. And so we see that throughout. So there's a STEM lab all about science, an arts wing for creating art, music, drama. There's a sports hall of fame and a sports room where kids can box, or they can see how fast they can throw a baseball. All these things. And then there's just the traditional grandma's attic, part of the museum that's artifacts and just and also artwork. So it's pretty wide ranging actually as far as topic is concerned.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. Any beer history in there?
Yeah, it's just not on display.
It's called the recycling bin. It's the history of beers Billy's knocked down when his wife said, "Get out of here, go to the museum."
Yeah, when you've been building 25,000 square foot of exhibits for the last 2 years, then there's a lot of beer that got drank when you're working it. I mean, that's the only way you can deal with the ghosts, right? I mean, so you're in here.
Oh, haunted museum, even better.
In here at 2 a.m. in the morning, then, well, maybe it's because of the beer that you're hearing ghosts.
We need to call in the guys from Least Haunted Podcast and have them investigate this.
Actually, had the paranormal investigators in the museum once. I'll save that for their podcast. So.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Look at that, Billy. We just got you a second guest spot. Well, speaking of drinking beers, Nick, we got that beautiful sound of you cracking a beer in the B-roll, and I'm going to edit it in right here so it sounds like you just cracked it. So people think right now you just opened it, or maybe I won't edit it. And what are you drinking, man?
It's a Epidemic Ales Tucson's IPA. It's actually a bit old because it came out back around SF Beer Week. What episode was that? That was like...
Dude, that was episode 4.
Episode 4. We've come so far.
We have. This will be...
Episode 12, 13?
14.
14?
Yeah, wow. 14. Yeah, so that beer, well, you're drinking it. You're drinking it 8 episodes ago, but people will hear about it 10 episodes ago. I'm not doing the math on this. This is too much. It's a lot
of podcast time traveling.
Well, now, Billy, you talked about the brewery you stopped into. You mentioned a little bit about the food. Talk to us about the beer. What was the name of this brewery again? It was called
12 Bones.
12 Bones.
12 Bones Brewing, yes. And so I talked with Adam, who was I guess he might have just been the bartender there. Actually, I did a little recording interview, so I'll send you that if you choose to use it or not.
Yeah.
And just talked with Adam a little bit about the history of 12 Bones, but they They are.
You know
He said
what?
they started up about. Go ahead.
Here's what I'm actually going to do is because we have an episode that's recorded and not out yet. Here's a little behind the curtain for all the listeners, right? I'm going to take that little interview with Adam from 12 Bones. I'm going to put it in 13. So by the time people get here for this episode, they'll have heard that. Boom. Magic of editing.
Thank you for that.
Time travel.
There you go. You just solved it, Travis.
That's right.
All right. Well, tell us about your experience there now that I've thoroughly interrupted and derailed you.
Well, I mean, I was struggling, so that's perfect. Now that you'll include Adam's interview, then he's got it covered. But yeah, so I did a flight while I was there. I had their I've got my card here actually, so I did bring some notes. So I did a flight of they have a Pilsner, they have a West Coast IPA called Coastin', Time Capsule Traditional IPA, and Cherry Gander English Pub Ale. So they all were delicious. And I've been on a Pilsner trip lately, so I really wanted to try that. But I brought up I tried the Coastin', the West Coast IPA, and really was shocked at how much it tasted like the Double Nelson Baby that you guys had sent me. And so,
no kidding.
Yes, absolutely. And I've complained, not necessarily complained, but I've talked about before about how different IPAs are here.
Yeah.
And so I was very pleased with both of those actually, and nice. It was nice to realize there's a local place that has that same IPA flavor. By the way, you guys can explain this to me. So tonight I'm going to be drinking the Nelson Baby.
Yeah.
So what's the difference between the Nelson Baby and the Double Nelson Baby that I had last week?
The Double Nelson Baby, higher ABV, more hops. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. All right.
Yeah, extra kick to your senses of that beautiful Nelson Sauvin hop, man. There we go.
Yeah. So we try the Nelson Baby.
Top, authentic. Yeah, so let's talk about that. The West Coast style IPA, which, I mean, Nick, we're out here on the West Coast, so for us, it's, we go and order one. It's what we're expecting to get. The hazy, the West Coast, things like that. They're within a range that we're expecting. I know when I was out in Tennessee, as we've talked about, a lot of beers with these, big crazy hop names, but that didn't really match with what I knew about IPAs. Nick, do you have any experience going eastward and having that same problem?
No, I feel like the trips that I've made in the recent years to the East Coast, I've had a lot of hazies.
Yeah.
That is New England style. So
sure.
But no, I typically I'm gravitate towards the hazies anyway.
So what do you think, Billy, as far as this one you had today, the ones we've sent out to you versus what you're traditionally finding around you? What are your thoughts on the differences?
Well, Nick mentioned that he's had those hazies, and what I'm seeing, I think, is more of those here actually. So I think when I think back to a few years back having IPAs here, they were just so piney to me that they were hard to drink. And so I'm not any connoisseur of beer or wine or anything at all on earth, but I will, I just know what I like. And so I just always found it hard to drink the IPAs that were made here on the East Coast. But I'm seeing more and more of the West Coast IPAs, and they're called West Coast IPAs, so you get a different flavor, and there's so many collaborations going with different breweries. I think that has a big part to do with it as well, just the fact that these guys are working together. So these collaborations are amazing, and I really, that's one thing that I love about the craft beer industry in general, is that willingness to work together and collaborate. And so loving to see these different collabs coming out.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is what Jeff from Hidden Hills was talking about, and what we always talk about, that community, right? And Holly was talking about doing those collaborations for Beer Week. I think she had 4 collaborations that they were doing. Just, I mean, Nick, you're holding a collab right now, you know?
I like the clubs.
Yeah, so I
Yeah.
mean, last week, I'm saying last week because I guess that's when I listened to the last episode, right? So episode
Yeah.
12, but I
12.
think episode 12, I can't think of your guest speaker's name. Forgive me, sir.
That
But
was Jeff with Hidden Hills.
Jeff with Hidden Hills, it sure was. Yeah, so he talked a lot about just the breweries being good, economically for communities, but also how much they were bringing families together and people together. And as I just see more and more breweries here as well, um, it's nice to see that impact that it has. It's just good for mental health in general, So I mean, just to be able to have that nice place to go to and hang out with your family and have a beer and also have some good food. Most of them have some good food going as well.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so we're seeing more and more of those in this area. And just the benefits of that, both economically, but also, culturally, I think.
Yeah. 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 And that's definitely something we talk about is that, it being more of that family place. It's, it's not the dive bar of, when we were young and the generation before us was doing it. And again, I mean, there's a time and a place for a dive bar. Don't get me wrong. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
yeah.
Every now and again, that's where you want to be. But yeah, the brewery has become that place where, you can bring the kids, you can bring the dog, you can bring the family. It's, you go there for food and hang out for the afternoon. And yeah, so you're starting to see a lot of that in your area as well, Billy.
Absolutely. They're
Yeah.
growing like crazy. Greenville, which is nearby, Spartanburg, Greenville area, Asheville. Of course, Asheville's probably been the most progressive as far as breweries go in the southeast over the years. But so there's just a lot there. In fact, Sierra Nevada built their East Coast facility right outside of Asheville in Mill Springs. So went up
Yeah.
there a couple of weeks ago actually to Sierra Nevada and checked out their just amazing place that they've built there in outside of Asheville.
I totally forgot about that. Huey, were you hip to this that Sierra Nevada built their
I feel like
a
this was
new
a
location?
conversation not too long ago on the Discord, right, Billy?
Yeah.
We were
Yes.
talking about this, and that's when I found out.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
so-
I had no idea they were outside of California.
Well, and it's so crazy because I feel like, yeah, it's so weird just thinking back to like my own kind of, craft beer exposure and evolution and all of that. And I really think that the Sierra Nevada Pale Ale was what turned me on to pale ales. And I always say Sierra Nevada, they set the standard for the category of pale ale. It's changed since then, but I really feel that they set the standard for it. And they really were the ones that first exposed me to it. First wheat beer I had was the wheat from Sierra Nevada at a Woodstock's Pizza in Chico, having a wheat crust beer or a wheat crust pizza with the wheat beer. And that was, so yes, Sierra Nevada, definitely important part of my craft beer introduction, as well as I'm sure so many other people. So that's great that they're out there.
And the food's amazing as well. So we actually went to Sierra Nevada after spending all day at the Well Invitational, which was a craft beer festival that's held, I'll say, annually. Here, they're in Asheville, but they have about 40 local, 40 and up. I mean, there was so many there. Breweries who were there represented there that day, and the Well is actually originally in Asheville. They now have facilities in Greenville, South Carolina, and also Charleston, South Carolina. But it's a collective, and so that collective hosts and puts on that the Well Invitational Festival, where, geez, we just spent all day trying so many different beers, and I can't name a one of them, I don't think. But I do have. I have a lot of photographs, though. Since this is video, we can splice in some pictures.
Yeah, right. We'll just pop up. We'll do like a little montage. You're gonna need a montage.
Oh, actually,
Montage.
I actually interviewed one of the guys there at the Well Invitational. I'll send you that one also.
Yeah,
So,
please do.
and I was on this big Pilsner kick that day. It was pretty warm already. This was June 3rd, so this is South Carolina. It's 1,000 degrees.
Yeah.
And so, for some reason to me, Pilsners are more refreshing, in the heat. So,
yeah.
and so I was kind of doing the Pilsner route and trying everybody's Pilsners out. So I think that's what I had from them. Actually talked with, my favorite one was called the Vegan Ferrari. The Vegan Ferrari, and it was from the Vale Brewery Company. And so I'll send you that interview also from those guys, and you can maybe splice that in also.
Yeah,
Not
no,
to
that sounds
mention
like
that
a
they
good
had
one to check
wrestling
out.
in the middle of all the tents was the wrestling ring. That was a nice surprise.
Now, and was this one of those things where, if you were going to participate, it was all planned out in advance, or was this one of those things where it's like, hey, have you had just enough samples of beer that you want to get in this ring? You know what I mean? Was it kind of open for all comers or what?
Well, I think it was planned, but it felt like it could have been anybody. So at the same time, now that I think about it, so I'll send you the videos of that too.
Yeah, Pilsners. Nick, are you seeing a lot of Pilsners up in the PNW right now?
Here and there, I do.
Yeah. I feel like they're starting to peak out a little bit more, whereas I don't know. It's like here and there you'd see them, but I really feel like we're starting to see them a bit more. It's perfect time of year, as you said, Billy, refreshing. But yeah, I don't know, Nick. You've got a couple of places that are starting to throw them out.
I can't think of any off the top of my head, but I feel like I've seen them around. Maybe not necessarily at breweries that I've gone to, but sometimes if they have like guest taps, or if we're at a tap room, then there's usually at least one craft Pilsner.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's interesting because the Pilsner is kind of in that, I'm gonna really piss off some crazy, beer heads here, but I'm gonna say the Pilsner is in that same category as your lagers, your kolsches, your things like that, where they are that really light and crisp. And I know they're unique, and I know they're all very different and special, but they have this one same characteristic of there's nothing to hide behind, like Holly was saying from Epidemic. And so, you put out a Pilsner, you put out a Kolsch, you put out, a craft lager, something like that. You've really got to get it right, because if there's any blemishes at all, I mean, they're just going to stand right out. You know what I mean? You don't have the extra malt character and that extra, hop character to kind of help you out and smooth the rough edges,
Absolutely. What was it? There was one that you sent me recently. It wasn't a Pilsner, but it's like a craft Coors Light, apparently. I think you sent it to me. It was the beer.
Was it the 8th state
release.
one?
No, I don't think it was North Carolina. Actually, well, let me see here.
Because Billy, you sent us that one from 8th state that was a collab.
Yeah,
the Daily Routine.
Daily Routine German Pilsner from 8th State in Greenville.
Yes.
They do it right. I mean, they do it right. That's one of my favorites when I go to 8th State, and I love those guys there. We talk about just good people. That's and the people in the industry being good people. Then those guys definitely come to mind to me.
Yeah.
And so they started up about 5 years ago, and I'm just running into that. It was also the same with 12 Bones, that they are about the same age, and you guys have talked about it so many times of there being a lot of breweries started about the time COVID hit, and so it was very challenging for these young brewing companies to last.
Yeah.
And so I think the ones who have survived are definitely worthy of it. And 8th State's one of those. Survived through that, and they have new releases every week. They do all these barrel aged brews, which are amazing. In fact, I think they have a release party at least once a week, if not every other week, where they're releasing something new. They have one coming up July the 29th. They're going to have another release of a 2-year barrel aged collaboration with J. Wakefield Brewing. It's called Worthless Knowledge is the name of that.
Yeah.
And so I think it's 2 years and 4 months actually. I think they were texting me today and telling me that this Worthless Knowledge has been barrel aged. So anyway, they just know how to do it, and it's so good. So that would have been the one, Nick. I can make a short story long, but
that's what this is all about. Look, Billy, all of this that we do here for anywhere from an hour to an hour and a half is Nick and I drank a beer and then we make that short story real long. So that's what this show's about, right? Nick made a taco and we talk about it for 45 minutes. That's how it works.
Yeah. So the daily routine German Pilsner. Sorry, Nick, I cut you off.
No, no. I love the name of that. That's great. The daily routine.
Yeah. And I threw up a reel of me pouring it into a tulip glass and then setting it on a bench in my backyard and making it look real artsy and dramatic. But aside from the visuals that I really put together there in an artistic way, quality beer. Nick, what'd you think about that beer, man?
It was pretty good. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. And then let me see the 8th state. That's one that Billy, did you send us some trail reports about 8th state?
I did. Actually, you got a trail report where I had interviewed Isaac, who is one of the owners there at 8th State.
Yeah.
And that was really early. It may have been your 3rd episode and my 2nd episode, so that was a little ways back, but definitely, yeah, you talked with those, or you heard from them. You haven't talked with them. Definitely you heard from Isaac out there.
Yeah, we need to get Isaac on here, and it's a couple of guys, 2-3 guys that own that place.
Isaac and Cameron, yes, and they we'll keep at them until they agree to come on. I think they're microphone shy, so but
yeah, no, that's good. We'll keep trying. We'll see if we can get them on. They definitely sound like they're doing good stuff out there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, and Billy, you should have gotten. I think I sent you several of theirs, so you'll just have to let me know how you like them as you come across them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You sent us a good set there. I think there was Nick. Was there like a barrel age in there? I think what was the bottle was a barrel age, right?
Yes, that I have not opened yet.
No, me neither.
It's too beautiful to open. Oh, yeah. That's the one with like the waxed seal.
Anytime it gets the wax top, and it's like I just can't. And I still have some that are probably a good 4 or 5 years old.
Oh yeah. And those ones are good for laying down. You throw them into your, I've got a big wine fridge that it's pretty full of wine, but there's a section of it that is for cellaring beers, and when you get those ones that are already aged or some stouts or some, porters or whatever like that, toss them in there, let them sit for a little bit. Yeah.
And they're limited, that's limited. That the ones I sent you they're not making anymore. So you just I watch their website for the prices, and as the supply diminishes, the price goes up. And so and that's fun too. I mean, I like to think that I'm on the search for my favorite beer, but what I've discovered is really I'm trying to find if there's one I don't like, because everywhere I go, I'm not sure I drink the same beer twice unless I'm just forced, into drinking something, a standard Yingling or something. But there's just so many great craft beers out there now, and so it feels like I'm trying something new every time.
Oh yeah,
and I love
it. Absolutely, totally. No, Nick, your Untapped numbers, I think, are pretty impressive. It beat my
compared to
got
a lot
locked
of
out
other
my
people that I've
account.
seen on Untapped. My numbers are amateur.
But it, Untapped, I think some people look at it and they're like, oh, this is, just something for, beer bros to, brag to each other. It's not. One of the things that it's great for is, looking at, if you're up against a list of 6 beers and you
Yeah.
start checking them, hey, maybe you've already had 3 of them. And this is a
Exactly.
way that you can check it and make sure that, well, why don't I just give somebody else a shot? You know what I mean?
That is the primary reason I use Untapped.
Yeah.
And there was a good 6-7 year gap where I didn't check in beers. So, I mean, yeah, my numbers are a little soft, but that Untapped is my primary reason for keeping track of everything that I drink. Just because it's, life's short, you got to try everything. No sense in doing repeats often. So,
yeah.
because there's been
That's
plenty of
right.
times where I ordered a beer and then after the fact I go check in and I'm like, damn it.
Yeah.
I've had it 5 times. Apparently I didn't remember them.
I see that I've scored everything a 5. So there's,
This is
Yes.
great.
it's hard to
5.
You know what? That's actually something that years ago I made the decision that, who am I to be breaking things down by quarter star intervals? And that's not to say everyone should use my, system here, but I didn't feel like, well, I'll tell you what sparked it. At work, we, in my day job, I actually have a real job. It's not just this, if you can believe it. This doesn't, pay the bills. But in my real job, we have to get reviews from our clients whenever we can, just because everything, reviews drive business. And I had a client that I did a really, really, really great job for it. She was really happy and she left a review, and the review was just glowing and all wonderful things. And it was 4 stars. And she said, I'm only giving 4 stars because there's always room for improvement. And I was like,
Oh,
what the fuck are you talking about?
This was
Give me the
perfect.
goddamn 5 stars. Now I got to go have a meeting with my boss about why I didn't get 5 stars, the whole thing. So after that, I realized, I'm like, come on, man, who am I? Somebody poured their heart into this. They did an amazing job. Did I like the beer? 5 stars. I'll describe it. I'll talk about it. All of those things. You know us, Nick and I, when we come on here, Billy, you've heard us a million times talk about bars or beers and breweries. We don't get into the, oh, this was really great, but here was this one thing that they might have done a little better. Listen, man, I'm not judging at the Great American Beer Festival, right? That's not my job. Our job here is we get on, we talk about things we love, we share them, we support people in the community. And so, yeah, Billy, like you, man, that's my thing. I have a beer, I go to log it into Untapped. It's 5 stars every time. I think I gave a 1 star one time, and that was a long time ago, and it was because it was a really, really terrible beer. But other than that, if I don't hate your beer, you're getting 5 stars, Yeah.
Yeah. I will say, what I do want to see happen, since you all are so into the craft beer industry, you can spread the word, is I love reds, and I just don't see a lot of them around, so, and ambers as well. So I see more ambers than reds. So I'm anxious to see some. I'm anxious to see some of those popping up, maybe from some of these crap. Maybe there's a reason for it. Like I said, I'm no expert on anything, especially how to make beer. But maybe there's a reason why the craft beer folks don't make reds. I don't know. Do you know?
Well, I think, Nick,
So-
Jeff touched on this a little bit, didn't he?
I think so.
I think I feel like people who are making the craft beer, a lot of them are into the reds, the browns, the ambers, things like that, because they're great beers and they're fun to make, and there's a lot of places to explore. And you get a lot of people that come in, like Jeff was saying, they come in and they look at his list and they go, oh, this is great. It's not just all IPAs. You've got this and this and this. and they'll have one of the non-IPAs, and then they'll get a flight of the Pales and IPAs. And so it's like, I get everybody wants this, but then what's bringing people in the door is the IPAs. And that's what's going to bring in a lot more of your business. You're going to sell a lot more of them. But I do think, as Jeff said, he's like, look, I got the IPAs bringing people in the door. I make the browns, I make the, the ambers and the other ones. They last a little longer because they don't have those hops that are so fragile and time sensitive. So I'm hoping that as we get more of that, people just using IPAs to bring people in the door. And hey, before you have that one, why don't you taste this, and just giving out the tasters. I'm hoping we'll start to see some expansion. And it's that supply and demand, man. If we could get more people out there ordering the browns, the ambers, the reds, we'll see them more. Yeah.
Well, that makes sense. Oh, well, I'll just have to drink more.
Hey, you're doing your part. Nick's doing his part 100%, right? I'm all over the map. Who knows what I'm going to order when I'm out there? Usually I just say, hey, man, dealer's choice. You pour me what you would be pouring yourself right now, and let's go. I've found that leads to some interesting beers, no doubt.
Totally.
Well, speaking of, dealers, no, I don't have a transition. We're about midway through here, so we're going to take a break. And who knows? We'll listen to some other shit, and then we'll come back and we'll talk some more at you. So, yeah, chill out for a minute, crack yourself a beer, and we'll be right back.
Hey, I'm here with Mikey from Matter of Principle Brewery, drinking the 7% APV West Coast IPA hop with specially selected Amarillo, Chinook, Columbus, and Cascade hops. It's a collaboration with Virgil, Comanche Farms, and Hollingberry and Son hops. And I'm here with Mikey from Matter of Principle. Tell us about Matter of Principle.
So Matter of Principle is a newer West Coast IPA we have. It's only 2 weeks old, and it's cream, it's clean, it's crisp, it's got a hell of a lot of hops in it, but it's also not super hoppy. So it works out well. It's a very drinkable, crushable IPA, West Coast IPA.
I agree. Well, we appreciate you being here.
Did you ever get the feeling that there was more to this world than meets the eye?
Ghosts, aliens, age, big feet, interdimensional spirits, cryptids, North Dakota. Well, neither have we.
So come join us as we uncover the true stories and plausible explanations behind famous paranormal urban myths.
From the perspective of skeptics.
But it's funny. We promise it's funny.
So join us in the Least Haunted Podcast, because the only thing that's haunted here is you.
Ah!
We'll drunkenly mix metaphors and travel Hoppy Trails.
All right. Welcome back. That was a heck of a break, and we listened to maybe some trail reports, maybe some promos for show. Who knows? We don't. I haven't put them in yet. So, Billy, there's a lot more to you than pretty face and beer. And I'd like for you to let the listeners know, what are these other projects you're doing? Because you're doing a lot of really cool, really fun stuff. And I want you to shout it out. Let everybody know, what are these other projects you're working on?
Well, we talked just a moment ago about, and in your last episode, your guest there talked about just the bringing people together and how that's good for the community and good for, and in my opinion, I'm thinking good for mental health. And so this month is Men's Mental Health Month. And so I think a lot about that. I think to myself personally, a year ago, I don't think I was in a very good place mentally. And so I've just had a lot of good people, including you guys, who have just been someone to talk to and hang out with, so to speak, even if it's virtually. And that's been great for my mental health. So I love that aspect of the craft beer and the breweries and the industry in general. As far as transferring that over then to what I've had going on, I just finished filming a short film called Baby Girl. This was my first lead role in a film, and so that is about a middle-aged man who's much older than I am, by the way. No, I'm just kidding. It's about a middle-aged man who's has PTSD from being in the military and being in Desert Storm, and he's dealing with that when his teenage daughter shows up to live with him, and she's got her own issues that have to be worked through. So that short film should be coming out here. Really, I think it's going to be a pretty fast turnaround. They said post-production was going to last a couple of weeks, and they expect to be able to put it in some film festivals by August. So hopefully that'll be out soon, but really helps draw some attention to men's mental health. And I will be filming another short film starting in August in which I play another middle-aged suicidal guy. So,
You're starting to get typecast, Billy. What is this?
They just looked at me like, "Oh yeah, that's it. He's the one." And so,
Yeah.
so that'll be coming out. And this is brand new. My wife don't even know this yet because I just got the text. So I just got a role in my first feature film.
Oh
And
wow.
so that's going to be filming. It'll be rehearsing all the way until next summer. So we'll be filming next summer on that. I won't say the name of that because I don't know if they want me to yet. But
Yeah.
so that's exciting. Coming up.
Okay, and that one will not be middle-aged suicidal guy.
No, not yet.
Oh, that's great, Billy. And so, have you been doing acting long?
Well, I did some modeling in college, and so that's the mid '90s, and so I can definitely date myself here real quick. But and then through the years have done some different, really more live performances and historical reenactments, working through the museum, different performances like that. So acting, yes, but not in film. So I just I mentioned briefly just a moment ago about just having some mental health issues of my own over the last year. I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that I was turning 49 years old, but I talked to my wife and I said, there's some things that I want to do in life other than the things that I'm doing, and she's go for it. You know what? If it's going to make you happy, then try it. So I just got back into doing some print modeling, and then have done a couple commercials. I've shared a couple with you, and then decided to go ahead and start auditioning for some film roles as well. And so that's how it's all stemmed. It's really happened a lot over the last couple of months.
That's awesome.
Yeah, no, that's outstanding. That's really great. Yeah, I definitely love that that you've got that support there. It's it's hard in life because when we have to start making decisions on what we're going to do forever and who we're going to be forever, we're really young and we don't know anything. We haven't experienced anything, and it's tough and everything's scary. We don't know how to get started. We don't have resources and all of that. And I love hearing you say that you started looking at it and you thought there's more that I want to do, and you're doing it. You know what I mean? You're at a point in your life where you have the experience. Okay, if I want to do this, I need to do this, this, and this also to make sure that all of my responsibilities are still taken care of, but that I can still go out in this direction. I love it, and I love that you've got a supportive family that's allowing you to grow and try these new ventures. Love it.
Well, I've got a supportive family. I've also just got this really great network. I've never been a person, I've always been kind of a lonely person, so I've had that problem all along. But I think, you mentioned your Discord, for example, and the groups of people that are there, and it's just a family of people, right? So I mean, it's also another level of support that I've experienced, and I'm so blessed and grateful for.
Yeah.
Awesome. I'm glad that we can, be a part of in providing that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, Nick, it's like we talked about, right? With, at your wedding, right? There's everyone has family that you don't choose, right? You're born into your family, and that's the people who are there, and they're a part of your circle no matter what. But then there's also that family that you get to choose. And that's really important as well. Sometimes the people in the family you're born into, sometimes they're the best and they're the closest and all of that. And sometimes they're not. And, being able to have that family you choose, I think is such an important thing. And yeah, Billy, we love having you in our family of choice. We absolutely love having you here. We do. And I know everybody on the Discord does too. That's a great group of people. So shout out to everybody there. But yeah, it is a family. As you said, it is a family, and it's a family of people we chose and that we've pulled in and said, this person's important to me. I want them here close to me. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Now let's get happy. Put a shadow over everything.
No, that's a beautiful transition. Man, you are a professional. This guy over here, my God, he's got a face for print medium, and he's got the sense for radio too. I don't know, Nick, we're going to get put out of a job here. What is this?
Well, I mean, speaking of let's get happy. So Monica and I recently, we took a little trip about hour and a half north from us to this town, city, whatever you want to call it, called McMinnville. And cute little downtown area, but we went specifically to check out this brewery that's been there for a while. More specifically, because I mean, not that we're always seeking this out, but it was just interesting, and like they were saying that they were 100% gluten free, all of their beers and everything. They're also a bakery as well as a brewery, and so they make beer, gluten-free beer, and they make gluten-free donuts, among other
Now,
things.
for anybody whose ears aren't perking up at this being an odd thing, let me just real quick here. Gluten is a protein found in grains, and grains are the most important part of beer and fucking baked goods. So yeah, so that's crazy, man. That's crazy. Brewery and bakery, gluten-free, missing one of the things that is most common in the most common ingredient for both of those. What is that about?
I'm not sure, but the beers were actually pretty good. They had a few IPAs. They had a Dunkel,
Nice.
which actually was my favorite out of the bunch, just because it was very brown ale-esque. Yeah, no, it was really enjoyable. And the other favorite that I had was a lager, and it was basically a rice lager. And that was really good as well. But what was surprising was the gluten-free donuts.
Yeah.
I usually, like, when you get something that's gluten-free, it's going to be like some gluten-free baked item. It's very dense. Sometimes a little harder than normal if it's like normally a soft baked good. These donuts, you almost couldn't even tell. They were all like your cake style donut. And they all, I mean, I love donuts, but just the fact that you could go to a brewery and they also make their own donuts, they were really good. And especially for, like, because I've definitely had my share of just a lot of gluten-free items that just didn't taste that great.
Yeah.
The texture wasn't great. But these, they knocked, I don't know, whatever they're doing, they knock it out of the park.
Now, as far as donuts go, I am a chocolate old fashioned is my number one go-to. And then the maple bar is in there as well if they don't have the chocolate old fashioned. Now, I'm not talking about the old fashioned standard with chocolate frosting, although that's fine. If that's what you got, that's okay.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about the chocolate old fashioned donut, then with the chocolate frosting on top of it.
Correct.
That is my go-to. If you've got that, I'm into it. That's my number one.
So they don't have
donut.
that. They actually had an old fashioned, but it wasn't looked like your typical old fashioned. It was just, regular cake looking donut.
Yeah.
But it was it had the old fashioned flavor to it.
Okay.
But it was like
Okay.
their standard. It was their standard gluten-free cake donut, but with whatever is in their glaze, it had that. Because I think old fashions are kind of based off of like a buttermilk dough a little bit or something along those lines. Because
Okay.
old fashions to me have always tasted very similar to like the buttermilk bars that you can get.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see that.
So maybe not full blown buttermilk, but which the buttermilk bars are also my favorites next to old fashioned. But they whatever they did with the donut, it had a very like you were eating a glazed old fashioned donut.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the best one out of the bunch was just a yellow cake donut with their chocolate ganache frosting on it. That was pretty good.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds great. Billy, what's your favorite donut?
Don't really eat donuts, but if I do, then I just like a regular glazed donut, So I'm not a big sweets eater. So to me, that's as sweet as it goes, or even the ones that aren't glazed. So then I guess it's just bread. But
yeah, just kind of your classic cake, unglazed.
Right.
Yeah.
So when you start adding the chocolate and everything on top, it's just way too sweet for me.
Yeah. No, absolutely. It's definitely not something you're going to eat every day. And I found that most places don't have the actual chocolate old fashioned. I don't know why it is. Back in my youth, you could find them everywhere. I don't know. Maybe that's why it's called an old fashioned, because it's outdated. Nobody likes it anymore. That's the one I go to, and yeah, a lot of places don't have it. Yeah.
But I would say they are good with beer. So I mean that's a great combination, right? I mean, beer and dessert, they just pair well together.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Epidemic Ales, they do that. They do the pairing with their beers and Girl Scout cookies, right? They do that one regularly. Yeah. Yeah. So tell me about this Dunkel, Nick, because it was Dunkel's like a dark lager, right?
Correct. Yeah, it's your German dark lager. It was like I said though, it was more on like kind of the brown ale notes. I wish I could have taken some home because that would have been a perfect beer to throw a beer spike in.
Yes. Yeah. 100%. 100%. Yeah. And so is that going to be a little bit on the sweeter side? It's so weird because you think like dark lager, it's just a weird thing to think of because lagers are traditionally in the US so light and kind of crisp and they are that really light malt. So, dark lager.
It's basically a bit more malt to it. But it maintains, I wouldn't say it still has the same crispness, but yeah, definitely more of a malt forward.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. And then you had a rice lager as well. Now we had one of those at Crux up in Bend. We had their rice lager there, didn't we?
I believe so. I can't remember the name of it though.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what that one was called. We had, man, so many at Crux. Those guys were amazing. They did. I say guys, ladies and gentlemen that were there were amazing. They took really good care of us. I definitely remember we had that in the flight. I know that Fox loved that one quite a bit. How did this rice lager do for you, Nick? This gluten-free rice lager.
It was actually really good. It was made with jasmine rice.
Jasmine rice. Okay.
Yes. So it's got yeah. So not like, because like rice lagers, they're kind of really just, they're crisp, but it's like, I don't know, at least for me, they're like a crisp water.
Yeah.
Like I would choose to drink a nice Japanese rice lager over bubbly water.
Sure. Yeah, it's a water with a little extra flavor and a little
exactly.
hint
So
this is
with the jasmine, and I feel like it adds a little slight level of sweetness to it. So it's kind of a little bit more kind of fruity flavors ish.
Yeah. Do you feel like it gives like a floral note or anything like that? Does that come through from the jasmine rice? Or I'm trying to think trying to imagine how that would come through.
Well, it's not jasmine as in the flower, but like because jasmine rice, does it come from It's not related to the jasmine plant, right?
I don't know how
That's
they
not a
make the
stinky plant,
jasmine
but,
rice, but I know that does have kind of some floral
but
notes to
yeah,
it when you
kind
cook
of
the rice.
some light floral notes.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Okay.
Well, I do know
And
that jasmine rice is a fragrant and nutritious grain.
yeah.
I do love me
Sorry,
some
that's all I
jasmine
can
rice.
read off the Google
That's good.
search. Sorry. That was really quick.
I love it.
It sounded like you were spitting facts from on the fly.
Just
so.
popped in like an expert, like let me weigh in here. Yeah.
Yeah.
But, Nick, I'm also interested in this with the absence of the gluten. Did you feel any different after drinking a gluten-free beer?
I
Yeah.
didn't even think about it at the time, but thinking back now, definitely, because we had a flight that was 6 beers, and I think they were 5-ounce pours. And Monica and I shared them, but I don't. Yeah, after because we went to the next place to eat, and I didn't feel like I had really any beer.
Yeah.
Well, now
Okay.
I need to go back and be more conscious of that, how I feel afterwards. But
Well,
I feel
let's
like because we went to the next place and had like 6 or 7 in a flight, and I put those down no problem, plus eating. So
let's make a proclamation here. Expert opinion, proclamation, gluten-free beer, more crushable?
quite possibly.
Quite possibly. We will mark that one down as quite possibly. All right.
Quite plausibly.
Quite plausibly.
All right, and what was the next place you went to? You said you got some food and you also got a few more beers.
Yeah, Grain Station Brewworks. And you know what? That's my mistake because the Rad Lager was actually at Grain Station. My bad.
Yeah.
The one that I just talked about, the Japanese rice lager that was actually at, or jasmine rice lager that was actually at Grain Station.
I
No,
cannot
so
fix that in editing. This
oh
video.
well, it is what
Can't
it
fix
is.
it.
Whatever.
Doing it live.
Doing it live. But Grain Station is a place that where we went to is actually the main location. We'd previously been to another location of theirs in a town kind of south of where McMinnville is. But I don't think they have a brewing operation, but it's just a pub that serves their beers, and they're open for breakfast and lunch and dinner.
Yeah.
I definitely want to get back there to try their breakfast because it looks pretty good. But,
You sent me some pictures of the food that you ate there, and then you told me they also do breakfast, and I thought, man, this place, I'll bet they do it up right.
Yeah. But yeah, we had a flight. The beers were pretty good. We're already pretty familiar with them from going to the previous location. What did I end up having? They called it a California pastrami. But it was, I think, I mean, it had avocado added to it and everything. I don't care. It was good pastrami. I really, when I get a pastrami sandwich, I care less. I just want good pastrami in it. It was really good. And then Monica had something really good. I saw it on their special menu, and I was like, "That's what you're getting. You don't have any other choice. That's what you're getting." It was an elote pizza.
Ooh.
Yeah. So it had, like your roasted corn, all seasoned up, pickled jalapenos, and they weren't like the whole rings. They actually were like all chopped up into bits.
Yeah.
Scattered throughout. They had the cotija cheese and all that stuff.
Yeah.
It was actually a really good pizza. It was a nice crust. It was almost kind of like had a texture similar to kind of like a cornmeal-ish.
Ooh.
Maybe a slight amount of cornmeal in the crust dough. So
I've had that cornmeal crust before. A place called Blue Line Pizza.
Yeah, I think that's standard for the Chicago deep dish pizzas. Is that?
Is it
crust? Yeah.
Okay. Okay, Billy, have you had that a pizza where they incorporate the cornmeal into the crust?
Not to my knowledge.
If you'd had it, you'd know it. I mean, it It's recognizable. If you didn't know ahead of time, you'd go, "What the fuck's going on with this crust?" It definitely adds a texture to it that stands out. You can't hide it. Yeah,
for sure.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
I love
It's a pizza though, at least for
anything
me.
cornmeal.
right.
Definitely
Now,
love cornmeal.
you said it was a elote, right, Nick?
Yes.
Tell everybody what elote is, because not everybody knows. Billy, have you heard that before?
I have not. No.
That's the Mexican corn. So old school is where it's the corn on the cob. And sometimes they'll have it on a big thick skewer, the whole corn cob. And they roll it in like a light roll of like mayonnaise. Or actually, well, they roast it first, then kind of coat it with mayonnaise real quick. Throw whatever seasoning, usually tahini and some chili pepper powder, whatever. And dress it up however you want, and that's your corn on the cob. And now, kind of more recent trend, and I don't know, I'd say the last 5 years, is taking the corn off the cob and roasting it and giving it the same treatment, but mixing it into foods, or even just having a elote salad where it's just like a corn salad with amazing goodness.
Yeah. It's definitely good, excellent for parties, although a bit messy, but it is that kind of like unique thing that people would love. But a lot of people call it the, what Mexican roasted street corn or something like that. But it's called elote, and really good. Like you said, you roast it up, little mayo, hit it with the seasoning, some cotija, some whatever, and just kind of stack it up there, and really delicious. So that sounds like, so they basically did that same thing, but then had that on this pizza.
On a pizza, yes.
Outstanding.
Oh, and with chorizo.
Ooh,
yes.
Yeah, that's something you won't find when it's on the cob. Adding some extra chorizo on there, that'd be hard to stack on, but
totally,
that sounds good on a pizza. Brilliant. Absolutely.
Yeah, no, great place. Was big, kind of old school barn building. It's interesting where it's at, because your parking lot is kind of more of like it used to be, like clearly like grain mill operation with the old railroad track running in between all the big grain mill buildings. This particular building, it was either a big barn or part of the grain mill operation. And so it's them, and then another big grain building, winery, then another winery, and I think maybe a third winery. So it's like you have a lot of good spots to hit right in one. It's just one parking spot. So
yeah, it sounds like a place to bring an RV, right?
Right, just roll up and
stay a week or two.
It's interesting, Nick. You talked about the railroad tracks going through. I know you talked about campsite, that they were an old some kind of train depot, something like that, or I guess with the oranges. So they had the roll up doors right on the train tracks. Recently, we posted up that reel where you went to the newest Dust Bowl, and there's some train tracks going in there. They've got that train theme, the Dust Bowl in Monterey train theme. There's a lot of places
Tap
where
room
they're
in
putting
my
in
town,
these
the
breweries.
beer station. It's an old train depot.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Very interesting that so many places. I don't know if that's something that is more common in craft breweries, or if we just recently have hit on a bunch of places that are associated. Billy, what's your thought there? Train stations and craft beer.
Yeah, not necessarily train stations totally, but one thing that I appreciate about you guys is that you always do mention the buildings and the architecture. And so, yes, as far as craft beer, as far as these breweries are concerned, they're just in some amazing locations. I think I probably mentioned in the trail report with 8th State the fact that they were in an old bakery building, and so I love the repurposing. This museum that I'm in was an elementary school, many years ago.
Yeah.
And so just the repurposing, I feel like it probably happens maybe for a reason, because they can get the building cheap, but how beautiful they turn out to be, and amazing places that they turn out to be. So yes, I definitely see that here as well. Even today, when I was at 12 Bones, I'm not exactly sure what that building used to be, but I know it was not always a restaurant and brewery. So just seeing that the repurpose of the space for us in my area, heavy on the textile industries, right? So when those old mills get converted into apartments or whatever, then we're able to maintain a bit of our historical heritage without losing it. Whereas when they're torn down, you lose that, right? It's gone
Yes.
forever. There's
Yep.
no bringing it back. And so I love that the craft beer industry has maybe embraced some of that as far as looking for their facilities and where they're going to locate.
Yeah, and really, I do think that's true. Just that finding something that has that history and then repurposing it, right? Like the ASB on Main, the newest Alvarado Street location,
Mm-hmm.
Old Bank, like we talked about. It's ASB has their roots in the Salinas Valley, which is agriculture. We, the salad bowl of America. We feed the country produce, and moving into that old local bank building, as I've said, that just ties into the old roots. So yeah, the old train stations, that's again tying into the roots, the old bakery, textile, tying in all of that. That's such a cool thing. I really do like that. And I think a lot of breweries, whether it's out of convenience and it just happens to be that way, but I think that's absolutely true that we do see a lot of that, pulling those historical buildings, coming in, cleaning up, refurbishing a little bit, but really keeping the character. Nick, Crux, again, Crux out in Bend,
Amco transmission shop.
Amco transmission shop is what they
That's
used to be.
awesome.
And
That's
all
great.
they did was just move in equipment. They've still got the, the red floor, which I
Yep.
would imagine, I'll bet Amco has that, because when you spill transmission fluid on that, it's a lot harder to see. It doesn't
Yeah,
have
right.
noticeable stains as much. But the red floor, the Amco transmission shop, and they used that old Amco logo in their logo, right?
Yes.
So yeah,
That's
very
great.
cool. I think that's what it is. I think it's less of trains and more of just pulling historical connection from buildings. Yeah,
So
definitely.
special. It's something that a corporation I don't think does, right? So it's when you have bigger corporations, and even in beer industry, you don't see that, right? So
Yeah.
it makes the craft beer industry that much more special.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Well, yeah, and it's actually very interesting. I wanted to real quick mention a place that I went last Sunday, which will be 3 weeks ago by the time this comes out. A place called Hacienda Hay and Feed, and I posted a reel about it just real quick, just kind of a spinning around shot, and then 2 Alvarado beers. And this place, Hacienda Hay and Feed, looked it up because it was a friend of. I guess one of the moms of one of my daughter's friends was having a birthday party, so we went out there, and it is this multi-use space. So they sell hay and they sell animal feed, and that's what's going on there every single day. And they also have this area where it's like a picnic area, and they've got a train that looks like it's like a motorized train, not on a track, but it's obviously train shaped and standard motor and tires. But they've got that, and it's parked over there so the kids can play in it. And there's this little basketball type game that's there. And they've got a place where they're serving snack type foods they're heating up. And they've got local beers from all the breweries. And they've got a big pavilion. I would imagine they do weddings and special events. They've got a couple of food trucks there that if you're doing a special event, then they'll open up the food truck. Weto's Tacos, which if anybody's been down here to the Monterey Dust Bowl, you know about Weto's Tacos. They've got that amazing artichoke taco that I always talk about. So good. If you're down here, check them out. But one of their food trucks is there. So if you have a special occasion, you can throw an event there and they'll open up that truck. And it really struck me as, again, this kind of like multi-use and community type thing, right? It's like, hey, we're over here selling hay and feed, and we've got this big property. What can we do to be more? And you know what they did to be more? Craft beer. Bring in beers from some of the local breweries, sell some food, put up some tables, and all of a sudden, here we are. There's some people literally coming in, buying bales of hay, buying bags of feed. And then there's us over here, and the kids are playing, and we're having snacks, and we're enjoying the sunshine. It's like, Yeah, that's the thing is craft beer coming in, and I don't know. I say it all the time. Maybe I'm crazy and I'm just seeing it where it's not, but I think craft beer really is that thing that is like, how do we support some community right here? I don't know, man. Let's start with some good local beer and let's see what happens. And I think that's what they're doing over there at Hacienda Hay and Feed, you know?
So at Hacienda, are they? So they're bringing in beers from all the whole region.
Yeah, so when I was there, I definitely saw a lot of Alvarado Street. They had a whole bunch of Alvarado. I would bet what they do is every time there's a new Alvarado release, they go out and they get a couple of flats. And so they've got a variety of Alvarados. They had some Other Brother, which is another local brewery here that not as big as Alvarado, but turning out some great stuff, very well known in the area. They had some Other Brother. I think they had some Dust Bowl, and they may have had one or two other things. They had some Boochcraft, which not super local, but having some hard kombucha there. But yeah, so that's what they had. They had them on cans, nothing on tap, but buy a can, take it out and enjoy it. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, definitely a great spot. Nick, did you have more places to talk about from your day? I'm sorry, I just like jumped in and started talking here.
I was pretty much done. But it's funny that you know, like the little kind of wagon train of food carts, if you will, at like this feed store. That's actually a pretty common thing here. Where like in California, you don't usually find them that much. Or at least I never encountered them that much. It's usually a food truck on its own.
Yeah.
Or they had like, in the past, like in San Jose, Movable Feast.
Yes.
Where it was like maybe once or twice a week at a designated place in a parking lot, food trucks just round up and there it is. Where here, they're like, it's just like an empty lot and food carts just come in and they stay permanently.
Yeah.
And they're just there open, 5-6 days a week, in that same spot. And that one aspect that they're missing is kind of, well, I mean, some of them have it, but a lot of them don't, is the, tables.
Yeah.
To sit down and enjoy your food right there. Most of them, you get in there, get your food, and take off wherever you're going to go eat.
Yeah.
And the other aspect is, serving beer. I think I've been to one. It was kind of funny. It's in the Friendly neighborhood of Eugene. That's what the neighborhood is called. Is Friendly. And so
like
it's like
really.
it's called like the Friendly Beer Garden or whatever. There's no physical building or anything. It's just a lot that they've kind of made nice and have a few food carts there, and they've got a bunch of tables set up under canopy, and it it's really cool. And they actually have one of the booths is a beer cart. And so they have, maybe like 6 or 7 beers on tap. And, yeah, but I feel like that should be kind of a more common thing. I mean, hell, even the one that we have here in town, a beer station, Old Train Depot. And, they have an inside area where they've got a full bar and a bunch of beers on tap. But then outside with the patio area, they have like a couple 4 or 5 permanent staple food carts. So we're lucky to have one right here in town that's like a 10-minute walk away. So
yeah,
makes sense from an economic standpoint as well, or a business standpoint, I guess.
For sure,
you may not want to be a restaurant owner just because you're making craft beer, right? So
yeah,
let the person who likes to cook do that. And so
exactly.
those food trucks are involved. I think of one specifically that's just up the road that we love to visit. It's called Saluda. It's actually at a place called Saluda Outfitters, but I think it's called Eddie's Tap Room. Same way. They have delicious food. It's just in the food truck that's out in the parking lot. So,
yeah.
But it's always the same food truck, but it just, yeah. So it seems to make sense that way. They don't have to have a kitchen inside the tap room. They don't have to deal with all that. They can just kind of let that be someone else's responsibility. But as the patrons, we're the beneficiary of that for sure.
Yeah. And it is one of those things that if you it's hard enough to get all of your licensing and your permits to build a brewery. That's hard enough,
Right.
right? And then on top of that, to license out a kitchen and, have a health department coming and checking an entirely different set of stuff. You need an entirely different set of training for staff. And it really does make sense that food trucks and what I'm calling third wave craft beer, and which, Billy, as you mentioned, you noticed a lot of craft breweries opening 4 or 5 years ago, that kind of range, maybe a little beyond or maybe a little sooner. I'm calling that kind of third wave craft beer. And that has, I think, risen a lot with those food trucks, which the food trucks have been becoming more prominent for a while. But the food trucks, the food carts, the pop-ups, things like that, I feel like they go hand in hand, and it really just makes it that much easier. You don't have to be a Sierra Nevada with a huge restaurant attached to your
Right.
brewery. And, the laws have been changing because there was a time when you had to have a restaurant if you wanted to serve your own beer at the brewery. And I think it's really for everyone's benefit. And what I have seen just recently from a place called English Ales, which we'll talk about extensively. Amazing place. I definitely want to do a deep dive into them. They have a trailer. It's called Have Pub Will Travel, and it is a mobile pub. So it's a trailer with taps on the side. He rolls up, he sets out like a bar, and then he sits behind the bar, and he's got some bar stools and everything, and he's just out there pouring you beers off the side of the trailer. It's an amazing thing. You got to check him out on Instagram. It's English Ales, and every weekend he's out there driving his trailer around. Have Pub Will Travel. He's just setting up shop and serving beers. I think
awesome.
that's what's coming next, right?
Nice.
Mobile beer.
Yeah. Well, gentlemen, it is getting late into the evening, and we've talked about a lot of things, and we got to save a little something for the next episode. Otherwise, what will people have to listen to next time? So why don't we do this? Nick, why don't you tell everyone where they can find us?
HoppyTrailsPod.com.
That's it.
That's it.
It's easy.
It's easy. You get there, you're presented with some options. They're good options.
It'll be in the show notes.
They're safe for work options.
That's right. For now, that's right. And we've got, by now we should have the everything up on YouTube and going. I would hope that's up there. I don't know if we're going to do this one video for everybody yet. Definitely last one, video is patron only. There's a lot of patron only stuff. We're getting more frequent with it. Billy, you're a patron. Tell everybody how amazing it is to be a patron.
It's so great. You get all the extra content, which is wonderful, which makes you feel so special, that you do get that extra content. And so I just encourage, for me, it means so much to just be able to support folks like yourself who are really providing us, the listener, with so much great information and fun information and interaction that why should I not want to support you? If that's I'm not sure, I can't think off the top of my head what the dollar tiers are for Hoppy Trails right now, but I mean, there's multiple levels, right? So I mean, you can, we all have a budget. I get that. Trust me, I get it. And so I know, you just find the place you fit in that budget. But I mean, if you're listening and consuming this great content, then why not support the guys who are providing it?
Absolutely. I appreciate that. And that was very well said. And as you know, everyone, when you first turned this on and you said, who's that voice there that you recognized from those trail reports, send us trail reports too. We love to do it. If you've got something interesting, we talked to Mateo last time. If you're in an interesting place where there's a different beer climate you want to tell us about, let's talk, man. That's what we're about here. We're about reaching out. We're about bringing people together, talking about beer, talking about food, having a good time, and enjoying life.
Exactly.
How cool was that to hear Mateo coming in from Europe? That was amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, Billy, any last words that you have for not last words like you're about to be put to death. Don't worry. But anything you want to say
Thanks.
before we close out here.
I'll just say thanks to you both for just having me on tonight and let me ramble on. Again, I'm no expert on anything, in particular in beers either.
Neither are we.
I just know what I like. I know what I like, and so I don't mind sharing that. But I appreciate you having me on and putting up with me and talking to me.
Yeah,
And just
absolutely.
again, to all the listeners, I mean, support these guys.
Absolutely. We appreciate it. We're no experts either. We're just some guys that love what we do and we love talking about it. So we loved having you on. I think with that, all that's left to say is always remember to say yes to the Hoppy Ending.
Always say yes.
Cheers. The preceding podcast was produced by Sequoia Productions, LLC, copyright 2022, all rights reserved. If you enjoyed this show and you're looking for more, or even if you're looking for something a little different, check out the other amazing shows by Sequoia Productions, wherever you get your podcasts, or on sequoia.com.
Hoppy trails to brew until we drink again. Hoppy trails to brew. Keep sharing with your friends. Who cares about which IPA tastes better? ABV are just a couple letters. Hoppy trails to brews until we drink again.
So, all right, generally, here's what we're going to do. I say something clever to introduce the show. Nick says, I'm Nick. I say, I'm Travis. And then I'm going to, vaguely mention that we have a special guest. And I'm going to say, why don't you introduce yourself, special guest? And that's when you introduce yourself. Just give a brief introduction, who you are. We'll come in. We'll fill in a little bit of extra as well as, how we all know each other and like that. And then we'll just get to chit-chatting about shit. And we'll probably start with, where the fuck are you? We'll start with that because that's going to be some quality stuff.
Awesome.
All right, let me think. What's going to be good? That's going to be good. Okay. All right. I think I've got something. Let's see. No, that's terrible. Oh, man. I should have planned this out like a week ago. Oh, coming up with clever stuff on the fly is hard, man. Okay, let me see. Okay. All right. I've got it. Okay. You guys ready?
Yes, sir.
All right.